My name's Kevin, this is Dirty 20 Gaming, and this is my Scum and Villainy tutorial. We're going to cover character creation, ship creation, and the basic rules and game mechanics. So let's get started, shall we? Let's start with the best bit, right? Character creation. I have an example here that we're going to build following the rules, and this is not going to take long, so stay tuned. The first thing you're supposed to do is choose a ship and a crew. The reason for that is the different ships themselves get experience points. They're almost like a character unto themselves. They get experience points, but only if they do the jobs they're designed to do. So essentially, by choosing a ship, you're choosing the sort of main sorts of missions you're likely to take as a group. You can do anything, but these are the ones you're likely to take because your ship can be improved when you do. Basically, you've got a choice of being smugglers, bounty hunters, or rebels. Slightly more complicated than that, but that's basically your choices. And once you've chosen that, the idea is that it gives you some motivation when you actually come to building the characters, which we're going to do now. Starting off up here where it says playbook. First of all, kudos to the people that did this character sheet. I hope I got your names right here. Tim Dene, Jacob Osinghouse, and Chris McDonald. This sheet is spectacular. This is one of the many features of it here. All you have to do to make this character sheet focused on the class that you choose is type the name of that class right up there where it says a playbook. So for the purposes of this, I'm just going to do, let's just do muscle. Just because. And you notice down here it's all blank, just below these all down here. This is all blank at the moment. But as soon as I do that, as soon as I use one of the legitimate words, it all changes. This is all my equipment that I have access to. And just a quick aside, each mission will have either a light, normal, or heavy loadout, which means you can take either 3, 5, or 6 boxes of stuff. You have access to everything. Everything's on your ship, but on each trip you can take a limited amount of stuff. We'll get back to that in a minute. So now we have chosen our playbook. So now we have an idea of our gear. So we have a sniper rifle, a flamethrower, a vibro blade, a detonator launcher, a blaster pistol, a excellent martial arts style, and may or may not have mystic ammunition. There's also more stuff that you can add down here. But my point is it also gives you some stats over here. You see you've got 2 marks here and 1 down here. There is this vertical line, and that's going to come back to haunt us later, but we'll get back to that. So now I've chosen my playbook. Now I choose my starting ability. They're right here. Just click it so you know you've got it. In this case, it's unstoppable. I can push myself to do one of the following feats of physical force that is almost superhuman, like the equivalent of engaging a gang all by myself. So that's my starting ability. This is a space pirate game. There is nothing subtle about this game. So that is your starting ability. There is some options if you want to play a Xeno, which is this game's phrase for aliens. But we'll leave that to the side because it's simple anyway. The next thing you do is choose a special ability because below the starting ability, there's all of these. You choose one of these to start with. I'm just going to, and it suggests if you don't know which one to take, just take the first one. So that's what we're going to do for this character. Wrecking Crew, which means your strength and ferocity are infamous. When striking in melee, you gain 1 die. Whenever you spend a gambit, we'll get back to that in combat, you also gain +1 effect. We'll get back to that on that action. So that's my special ability. Then I choose a heritage and a background. These ones are just to create backstory. So I'm not actually going to fill them in here. But again, if you type, I'll just show you this. If I type colonist here and go over here, the list disappears and now it says colonist there. But these are quite literally to give you a sentence and a sentence about your backstory, which is all you're really going to have to start with. You can build them much, much bigger than that, but you don't need to. But you pick those 2, heritage and a background. Now, we're back over here with these triangles. You get to add 4 more. But there is a caveat. None of them can have more than 2. So this one has 2, this one has 1. So you've got 4 to add, but you cannot take any of them to 3. So this is muscle. We are also, I guess we're going to take, we'll take 2 scramble as well, which is leaping, jumping, bounding about, that sort of thing, running over rubble. So that's 2 there. We're also going to take 1 sway, which is to be able to convince people to do what you want. And he took a class 1, so we'll give him 1 in study. Those are their 4 points. 1 friend and 1 rival. Now, again, this character sheet is amazing. Right down here, there's your deadly friends. And there's arrows. So let's say I want Krieger. Well, let's do this. Shod, weapons dealer. I stole from him once, so he doesn't like me. But it's okay because I got this bounty hunter that does like me. And these are immediately you got to contact in game now. And you can call on these in game, or the GM can call on them to mess you up because Shod shows up demanding his money. But here's the fun bit. We are almost done. There is one more thing we have to do to create a character, and it's the fun bit. You get to choose a vice. Because in this game, the way you get rid of stress, which builds up during missions, is by indulging your vices. So there's a number of suggestions here. I like a stupor, so let's just put that in there. So yes, when you need to, when this guy needs to relax, he goes and just gets blasted until it's time for the next mission and reduces his stress that way. And now it's just name and an alias and how they look, and you're done. Character creation is that easy. You don't have to pick what equipment you're going to take because you choose that if you're heading into a mission. And there's a way you can make up for it if you make a bad choice. But we'll get back to that in a minute. For now, that is all you need to know to create a character in Scum and Villainy. So let's put Anne away. And let's build a ship. Because like I said before, the ships in this game really are like another character. It kind of gives the GM a way to play an NPC that's always there, which as a GM, I appreciate very much. Again, now this game has 3 built-in ships, and each of them has a specific focus. So I'm just going to put Star Dancer in here because it's the first one. Except, there we go. We all find out I can't type. We all knew that. And again, it automatically fills a huge chunk of this sheet for you. So the Star Dancer, it tells you right away, you are illicit merchants, you are smugglers and blockade runners. That's what you're good at. You're in a freighter, a converted freighter, and your crew quality is 3 of 3, and you have engines capable of jumping, and you have a hull of 2. And some other options, but we're going to get to those in a minute. Let's build this ship. The first thing you do is choose a reputation. This is for the ship and the crew. Some of the suggested ones here: ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, strange, or subtle. Again, it's to build a bit of a backstory and to get you started. We'll skip that because it's not really technically important. You customize your ship is the next thing. You begin with 2 creds in the hold. So let's just put them there. Oops, 2 creds in the hold. And a few pre-selected ship systems. You can choose 2 additional systems to improve. So again, here we've got the hull and engines, comms, and weapons. So let's... I think I want comms on this for sure. Weapons, not so much. I think I'd like some more engine. I'd like to run away if we're going to get caught. So that's the 2 points that we add there. There's backstory attached to those, but that's between you and the GM when you're actually building it up. That's all you have to do as the person who's creating the ship. Then you choose one of the special abilities, just like the other, just like building a regular character. So you've got the Getaway, Cargo Eye. I'm just going to pick the Getaway because it's the first one. You gain potency when you scramble, which is to try to get away, or Helm, which is to try and fly the ship, to avoid capture or run a blockade. When doing a delivery job, take 1 die to the engagement roll, which means your initial engagement roll is how you sort of get into the scene. So that getting 1 die to that means you've got a much better chance of starting on the right foot. So now you've chosen your special ability. You also get, I always keep looking over here because this is where I've got the rules. You get some starting items down here. You can see this one comes with the galley. You get to assign, let me look, 2 more. So you get to pick 2 more out of this whole area here. I would probably go for fake ship papers in case we do get pulled over. That's funny. And oh yeah, dark hyperspace lane maps. This means that we know ways to get from place to place that aren't official. They're much more dangerous than the official ways, but there's no cops. So that's the 2 of those that we have chosen. And again, you can upgrade this ship just like a character. They gain experience points and get to level up just like the characters. And one more thing is your contacts, which is right over here. Let's say, not because of the ship we know, a dockmaster, which makes sense. So to call it a dockmaster on the planet we start on, we know them and they'll do us a favor if we need it. And that's it. Now your ship is built. See how easy this game is? There are modules and upgrades that you can add to the ship, and some of them are general and some of them, like I've got here, are crew specific. So because I'm on the Star Dancer, there's a list of abilities that I add that I can choose from. Let's just have a quick look. So for example, along with the regular things that all the ships can do, if I have the Star Dancer, I can also get, when I've already taken them, false ship papers, dark hyperspace lanes, smugglers, rigging, and or lucky charms, or that were thrill seekers. If I had taken, say, the Fire Drake, which is a much bigger, heavier ship, I would have gotten black market contacts, a secret base, popular support, way blessed, which is way is magic. Doesn't mean you're magical, it just means people believe that you're blessed, or driven. But those ones are different for each ship. So that's all of it. We have now created a character and we created a crew. So we are basically ready to start doing stuff. And that's where we get to the rule page. This is basically the whole rule page right here. And the stuff that's behind me, you don't need to read. Just the stuff that's up there and the stuff that's over there. Essentially, what this rolls down to, sure, let's do that. What this rolls down to is, when you try and do something in this game, you're going to make an action roll. It is based on a number of things. You get 1 die for each of your action dots. So if you remember our character, they were a fighter. So say they wanted to scrap, which is fight in this game. I know it made me think for a second. It's like, well, I can take stuff apart. No, you can scrap as fighting. Now this covers blaster fire in a hallway. This covers a punch up in a bar. This also cover from firing from one ship to another ship. Any fighting. So in this case, they'd get 2 dice. Let's go back here. You can always push yourself. This is where stress starts to come in. Stress in this game is a limited commodity that you cannot recharge until the end of a mission. You start off with a finite amount of it, and you choose. Sometimes it gets burned off, but usually you choose when it gets burned off, and you use it to make up for things. But one of the things you can do with it is you can burn 2 stress out of your initial pile to add a die if you push yourself. And the nice thing is you don't have to remember most of what I'm telling you right now because it's on the character sheet. In fact, let's go back to that character sheet. And I'll show you. Right down here is bonus dice. So if you push yourself, you take 2 stress, or you can accept a devil's bargain. This is kind of a neat idea in this game. You can say to the GM, what if something goes really bad? Or one of my favorite examples is one of your family members sees you doing this crime, and there's going to be hell to pay. But for the moment, you can have an extra die. Or somebody can assist you, or you can spend a gambit. Your ship starts the missions with gambits, not you. So in this case, it would be scrap. Here's where we get to talk about another mechanic in this game. Every action you take is either controlled, risky, or desperate. Makes sense. The default is risky, so for now we're going to go with that. The effects are limited, standard, and great. Again, the default is standard, so we're just going to go with that. This is two evenly matched people having a fight. Oh, and by the way, NPCs don't roll. Everything that happens depends on you. Bonus dice. You are going to push yourself. So you're going to take 2 stress, which you can do over here. There you go. Except I think I made this go away. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to push myself, take 2 stress. So that gives me 1. I'm not going to act for an assistant. I'm not going to spend a gambit. So I get 1. Now, look at this pretty rollout again. Here's this character sheet showing its amazement again. It shows you character name, what they rolled. They're different colors for different rolls, and it shows you the 3 dice. What's important in this game is the highest die you roll. So in this case, it's a 4. So, in a risky situation, rolling a 4 as a result, you do it. You accomplish what you set out to do, but there's a consequence as well. You suffer harm, so you get hurt, or a complication occurs, or you have reduced effect. Remember I told you there was limited, standard, and great? So in this instance, the GM could decide that you can continue on and you can finish the mission, but you'll only have limited success instead of standard. So instead of getting all 3 people out of jail, you only got 1. Or you've only got a chance for 1. Or the other option, and these are all options that the GM, and by all means, tell the story with them. Make it worse for yourself at every opportunity. If with something like this in these moderate fails or a full fail situation, if you're in a risky situation, that situation becomes desperate. So if you're climbing through the vents above a room full of guards, and you fail a risky roll, things go badly, and it says you could end up in a desperate situation. The GM says your foot goes boom, 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 boom on the aluminum tubing you're climbing through, and about half the guards in the room look up and look around. They don't know you're there yet, but they know something's going wrong. So from now on, you're in a desperate situation. So let's go back to this. That would be how you would do those actions. A gambit, like I said, the ships start with gambits. And you can use them on an individual level. It is up to the crew whether they have a very brief discussion about whether it's okay to use them, or whether it's entirely up to the player to decide if the character uses them right here, right now. So that's how actions work and abilities work. And here's the thing: we talked about having harm. So in this case, I say, you got in this fight with somebody. Well, they stabbed you. They've cut your arm and you're bleeding quite badly. In this game, you can actually go, no. And it's called a resistance roll. And here's how that works. On a resistance roll, 1d per attribute dot. That's the first part of this that I have to show you. Because an attribute dot, this is where this blue line comes in that goes down here. On this side of it, you notice there's like 4, 4, 4. There's 4 of each there. That is your attribute value. So if somebody says, what's your insight is 1. Your prowess is 2. And your resolve is 2. When they say what's your scramble and scrap, those are 2. If they say what's your study, that's 1. But it's ones on this side that they want for this. So, and of course, it's the appropriate one. So prowess is the physical stuff. So if you're trying to jump out of the way of something, the GM says there's an explosion and you're going to take, 2 points of harm. You go, no, I want to resist this. So I use my prowess. So in this case, I would get 2 dice and I would roll those. And I avoid or minimize. It automatically works. You're not rolling to see if it works. You're rolling to see how much it costs. So if you took, say I said you take 1 point of harm and you say, I want to resist that. You automatically don't take that point of harm. But in this case, I would roll 2 dice. And it's the amount of stress it costs me to resist is 6 minus the highest of these 2 dice. There I say I was using my prowess, so I click on there, how many bonus dice? I'm not going to burn any, nobody's going to help me, so we're going to leave that at 0. A 6 and a 1. This is perfect because 6 minus 6, I take no stress, and I didn't take the wound. If we blank that 6 out, here, let me put the cursor over it so you can't see it. If we had only rolled 1 die and we had rolled a 1, that would have cost us 5 stress. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That wouldn't have been good. You've only got 9. And these go down by a maximum of 6 between missions, somewhere between 1 and 6. Okay, so now we've talked about the positions, the controlled, risky, and desperate. In addition to the standard actions that you can do and attack actions and all that sort of standard normal stuff, there's also these teamwork actions that you can do as well. There are 4 of them and they're very simple. Assist, you take 1 stress. We've already gone over stress, so you can see how quick you go through this. This is your non-renewable resource. But you take 1 stress and give another player an extra die on their next roll. Only 1 person can help. Also, you can lead a group action. Everybody who's present rolls, and you use the best result to resolve the issue, but the leader of the group takes 1 stress for every 1 to 3 roll. So every failure costs them 1 stress. You can set somebody up. So they say, I'm going to jump this wall, and you say, I'm going to help you. I'll just cut my hands and up over the wall. If you make a physical check to do that, they will get +1 effect, or they've got improved position. So if it was a risky thing that they were doing with your help, it's now only controlled, which means that things can go less likely to go wrong and more likely to go much better. Or you can heroically protect somebody. You can hurl yourself in front of somebody else's blaster fire, and you can resist instead of them. So if you've got lots of stress left and somebody's about to drop, you can do that. So those are the actions that you can do there. So that's actions, resistance rolls, and team actions. The next thing we're going to look at here is effects. We talked about position already. There's controlled, risky, and desperate. Now we need to talk about effect. There's an important part with effect. First, it's got 3 levels that are the same as this. They're light, standard, and great. And they are exactly what they sound like. They are important because some things that happen can increase or decrease that effect. So you might start off doing something that's of standard, that's going to have a standard effect. So you planned on taking out a guard, but you rolled exceptionally well and ended up with increasing the effect, which turned into great, which means you found a container of gas and you let it off in the guard room and put them all to sleep. You exceeded well beyond your wildest expectations. So that's possible too. When it comes to harm, you will take as much harm based on the level of effect. So if it was a limited effect that was going to be achieved, you'll only take 1 harm. If it was a standard effect, you'll take 2. And if it was a great effect, you'll take 3 harm. There are a couple other kinds of roles that are used in this game. This game is really fast paced, and one of the mechanics that's built in is a way to avoid those long, drawn out planning sessions where your party invariably makes a plan that's far too complicated and hasn't taken anything serious into account and is not going to work, but they spent hours on it. It avoids all of that by doing one roll. When you decide to go into an engagement, you are asked by the GM, how are you going in? And there's a list of choices. Sort of frontal assault, sneaking in, gonna try and charm my way in. There's a whole list of them. And once your party picks that, there's a question that's asked. So say you said, we're gonna sneak in. Where? We're gonna go in through the roof by helicopter. Okay. And that's all you need. There's no more plan necessary. You roll what is known as an engagement roll, and it's right here on the sheet. It's nice and easy, like so much of this game. It's actually a fortune roll. So right down here where it says roll fortune, all you do is click that. You only get one die for a fortune roll unless you have a significant advantage on this situation, which probably we don't. So a number of dice is typically going to be one. And you do that, and there's no notes to be sent. And what you see is we get a fortune roll down here of 3. And just like any other roll, it's a risky roll, so 3 is an utter failure. So they went in to land on the roof, but they did say helicopter, and the helicopter was very loud. And by the time they landed, there's 3 armed guards standing on the roof. They do have a split second where they could call this off and bail out and try another way, or they're going in guns blazing. And that's it. That's the entirety of planning in this game. Now, to make up for the fact that you can't plan, they use a flashback system, which is so much wonderful fun. For somewhere between 0 and 2 stress, depending on how much you're asking for, you can cause things to happen. So you can say, a 0 stress one is something simple. So you can say, well, it's 8 o'clock now, and I arranged earlier this afternoon to have a friend call me right at 8, so my phone rings. No problem, 0 stress. 1 stress, I knew we were coming here today, so I paid a friend of mine who's a waiter to sneak a gun in the back through the kitchen, and he's going to bring it to me on my plate. That's at least 1 stress, maybe 2. 2 is anything that has multiple steps to it. So I knew we were coming here. So a week ago, I kidnapped the architect's wife. We held her hostage for 3 days. The architect traded me the plans for the wife, and now I have them both in the basement because I can't let them out, but I have the plans for the place. That's at least 2, maybe no stress. Maybe I might tell you you can't do it, but that would be at least a 2 stress flashback. But this allows you to make up for things that you didn't go through in that planning mechanism. So really useful features to keep things moving along. Which brings us to another very key element of this game, and they're sitting right down here. These are clocks. And how these work is this is how you keep track of how things are happening. So the ones that I've got here are escape from the scene of a bar fight and the police tracking you. Are trying to track you. So that's the 2 clocks that we've got going. You saw how we generated successes and failures and that sort of thing. So every time that you do an action which would lead towards you escaping from the scene of the bar fight, every time you succeed, if it was to generate a limited effect, you would get to add 1. If it's a standard effect, you'd get to add 2. And if it was a great effect, you would get to add 3. So let's say you leapt out of the back of the bar and saw the dumpsters. You weren't going in them. You're willing to go behind them. So that you succeeded on that, you had and generated a standard effect. So you would then add 2 sections to this, which I just do by doing this. Now you are 3/4 of the way to getting away from these cops. The police burst into the bar, the bartender goes, "They went out the window." The police leap out the window behind you, and this time you fail to hide. The second time you fail to skulk. You skulk poorly, and they hear you behind the bunker because they never roll. So you're behind the dumpster, and you make a noise. You cough, and they hear you and come bursting towards you. This gives them great effect, which fills up 3 boxes. So they are now there. On your next action, if you were to generate a success, even a limited success, you are away. But if you fail, they're right on top of you. This is how everything, pretty much everything in this game is kept track of. And there's all kinds of different clocks. There's danger clocks. So if you're trying to lie your face off to somebody, I might set up a clock to show you exactly how suspicious they're getting of you. There's also dueling clocks. So if you and another group have been sent after the same item at the same time, I'll set up 2 clocks, 2 that have the same number. They can have anywhere up to 12 segments. So I'd set up 2 8-segment clocks, and each team would move. When you succeeded, you would move forward. When you failed, they would move forward. Whoever gets there first wins. There's linked clocks. So for the extricating somebody or bounty hunting, first you have to find them. So that's that's a 4-section clock. Then you have to separate them from their escort. That's an 8-section clock. Then you have to convince them to come with you. That's a 4-section clock. Then you have to sneak them out the door. That's a 4-section clock. You have to do all of that to succeed in the mission. There's also time clocks, which are literally, you have 4 hours to get this done. And every time I think an hour has passed, I click another segment. There's also tug-of-war clocks, where when you do something, the clock goes one way. When somebody else does something, the clock goes the other way. So you're trying to incite a revolution, and somebody's trying to incite the counter-revolution. You'll use the same clock and move it back and forth. There's also the long-term projects, things that you can do between missions. And those are kept track of on clocks as well. And then there are the faction clocks. There are approximately 30 groups in this part of the universe that are powerful enough to take notice of. They are at varying levels of power, but they all have projects on the go. And all of those projects are being kept track of by one of these clocks. And when those clocks fill up, those projects come to fruition and happen into the world of the Corsairs of the Cosmos, whether they like it or not. So that's the basics. That's how you create a character, create a ship, make a roll, resist a roll, how to run a clock, and how not to die. We can hope. There's some other stuff, but this is the basics that you need to get going. Don't feel bad if you don't get it yet. It's way simpler than it sounds. Once we play this, it's going to be very, very easy for you to understand how this works. But until then, thank you for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it. I hope it helped. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know how I could have made this better. Thanks again. As always, please be nice to each other. Bye.